Tourism. It's how we connect with the vast world around us. Every year, millions of people spend their hard-earned incomes to escape their homes to experience the expansive riches that the world has to offer. But in the future, our favorite vacation destinations may look different or even cease to exist because of climate change. The tourism industry is a perfect intersection of environment, economics, and society. By examining the tourism industry, we will investigate how climate change creates environmental degradation that generates economic ruin and social unrest. Climate change's effect is not uniform for our world. It varies based on location, environmental characteristics, and level of economic development. By investigating varying practices of tourism across the world, from snow sports to beaches to African safaris, we will showcase how climate change has negative economic consequences for tourism all around the world. For centuries, skiing and snowboarding have been one of the world's most popular sports and tourist activities. Not only does this industry benefit many as a recreational pastime, it has contributed to the national GDP in countries worldwide, from Canada to Switzerland to Kazakhstan to New Zealand. Although many of these nations have large global economies beyond these snow sports, many of the local towns where these mountains reside rely on the seasonal influx of tourists and locals alike. It is estimated that during the 2021-2022 season, over 60 million people visited ski mountains, ranking as the most since the study was first conducted in 1979. A recent study has shown that Colorado's ski industry generates a $4.8 billion annual economic impact, which comprises a significant portion of the state's recreation sector and supports more than 46,000 year-round equivalent jobs in Colorado's mountainous regions. That same study reported that during the 2013-2014 ski season, skiers and snowboarders accounted for 588,000 deplanements at Denver International Airport, or 8% of all non-connecting arrivals to Denver in that period. Even though global warming has damaged the ski industry, it's hard to comprehend when your ski day is just how it was 30 years ago. So how has the ski industry been affected by global warming? Climate change has altered when and how snow falls, which has significantly impacted the snow's depth, cover, and density. Research from a 2018 report showed that between 2001 and 2016, consistent low snowfall caused the economy to lose 5.5 million skier visits, $1 billion in revenue, and 17,400 jobs in relation to the average season. Rising global temperatures would only exacerbate this relationship and cause a significant hit in the local economy. In conclusion, the article adds that fundamentally, snow is currency for ski towns, so as our snow is melting, money is evaporating with it. Although climate change continues to impair the sector, the industry itself contributes to the globe's rising temperatures. Aviation is one of the major contributors to human-induced global warming. According to a recent study, aviation contributed to approximately 4% of observed human-induced global warming. In addition, the ski industry produces greenhouse gas emissions by powering ski lifts, snowmaking, lodges, restaurants, and many other amenities. So we are all then left with this paradoxical nature between climate change and ski towns. Safari tourism is a promising area of economic growth for Africa as it has become a top generator of GDP and employment in the region. Safari tourism not only has a direct positive effect on the African economy, but it also has spillover effects that indirectly affect the economy. Safari tourism has helped enhance other economic sectors such as food services, hospitality, banking, transportation, among others, all which have contributed to a more robust economy that lends itself to the development of more enhanced social and political institutions that increase standards of living. However, climate change endangers this positive growth from safari tourism. African safaris depend on their ability to provide unique, once-in-a-lifetime experiences to their clientele through offerings of rich wild plant and animal life. Climate change threatens Africa's unique biodiversity, which is already under threat from poachers and industrial development due to the extreme weather patterns it will impose on the region. Climate change in Africa is creating rising temperatures that are altering animal migration patterns and plant growth that safaris depend on. Climate change has also contributed to a growing amount of unpredictable severe weather events that make it harder for the environment to thrive and adapt, which in turn leads to the collapse of wildlife populations that safaris depend on. As animals move out of regions or decline due to temperature changes and extreme weather patterns, those regions can no longer rely on safaris as a source of income, which can lead to local economic collapse as these communities lack the resources to adapt. Extreme weather patterns also drive away tourists as the safari experience becomes less comfortable because of overall weather conditions, but also because Africa lacks the infrastructure that can handle the more extreme weather conditions it faces. Tourists expect the safari experience without having to forego their home comforts, which include agreeable weather and suitable accommodations. Without the important revenue generated by tourism, Africa will struggle to adapt its infrastructure to recapture those tourists or shift its economy, since it can't rely on an inflow of finances from tourism to drive local investment and development. While many of us won't be impacted by the decline of African safari tourism due to its exclusive nature, we should care about its impact. The decline of African safaris implies a decline in the world's biodiversity and a collapse of a vulnerable region's economic and social well-being. African safaris have stimulated economic growth that has generated a cycle of investment and development that is assisting the creation of a well-functioning economy. Well-functioning economies are important because they initiate greater social cohesion and standards of living due to the betterment of institutions. If this cycle of development were to regress or stall, it could lead to the crumbling of institutions that would send millions of people into deep poverty and generate social unrest that would lower the standard of living and ultimately cost people their lives. Beaches are one of the most popular vacation destinations because they provide many recreational opportunities that are accessible to a wide range of tourists. In the United States alone, it is estimated that over 400 million people go to the beach annually. Because of the popularity of beaches, they are a significant contributor to coastal communities and the overall tourism industry. Climate change has had an enormous impact on beaches. Experts have agreed that beaches are starting to be affected by increasing sea levels, storms, sand erosion, among others. Increasing temperatures from climate change are causing ice sheets to melt into the sea, which is causing sea levels to rise. Climate change is also generating sand dune erosion. Quote, changes in sea level, seawater temperature, and other ocean dynamics. According to the US government, the phenomenon of beach erosion contributes to roughly $500 million in coastal property loss. Sand erosion is catastrophic for beach tourism because it can alter beach attendance substantially. As beach attendance changes, so do local expenditures and non-market value. Climate change is reducing the economic viability of beaches, as people are less willing to spend money to visit beaches that have been affected by sand erosion, rising sea levels, and sea discoloration. Additionally, shifts in climate attributes of destinations may result in spreading of invasive and dangerous species, with consequent losses of marine and coastal habitat, which can affect tourists' well-being, choices, and expenditure decisions. It's important to note that the beach industry itself contributes to climate change that is harming it through its release of fossil fuels from travel and the contamination of beaches by their visitors. When a community is dependent on beach tourism, like many beach-situated communities are, they cannot afford to lose tourists. Beach communities rely on tourism as an important source of employment, income, and governmental revenue source. The finances that come from beach tourism helps fund local community infrastructure, which helps better living conditions and social cohesion. Without beach tourism, many local communities will lose their main source of income and funding, which can cause the local community to collapse. It is often difficult for the everyday person to comprehend and witness the effects that climate change is having on our world, but tourism provides us a lens to see these consequences. For instance, when ice sheets melt in Antarctica, people understand the consequences, but don't feel personally affected by them. However, when the activities and recreations that we love decline because of climate change, we begin to open our eyes and understand that we need to act, and act now. It's important to realize that climate change is a phenomenon that affects you. Climate change will alter our environment, economic systems, how we interact with the world, and fundamentally, alter how our society functions.